Imagine waking up next Monday as the same person you are today. Same habits, same excuses, same bank account, same stress, same dreams that are still waiting for someday. Now imagine waking up as someone completely different. Not because you won the lottery, not because someone handed you an opportunity, but because you made 5 simple decisions that took less than 1 week to change the direction of your life. Most people believe transformation takes years. That's the biggest lie they've ever accepted. Your life can begin changing in a single day because your future doesn't respond to time. It responds to your habits. Here's what shocked me. None of these habits cost me money. None required special talent. None depended on luck or connections. Yet after just 7 days, I thought differently, worked differently, and saw opportunities I had been blind to for years. Today, I'm going to share the 5 habits that completely changed my life in just 1 week. But here's the challenge. The 5th habit was the one I almost ignored, and it ended up becoming the most powerful of them all. If you miss it, you'll miss the one habit that ties everything together. So don't just listen to this speech. Listen as if the next 7 days of your life are going to determine the next 7 years. Because they just might. I used to believe that real change took months. I thought you had to wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect mindset, or the perfect season before your life could finally begin to move in a different direction. I thought success belonged to people who were born with more talent, more money, or more connections. But then I discovered something that completely changed the way I see growth. Your life doesn't change when the calendar changes. Your life changes the moment your habits change. Think about that for a second. The future you're praying for is being built by the decisions you're making today. Every choice is a vote for the person you're becoming. Every repeated action is writing the story of your future. Most people spend years waiting for a breakthrough while ignoring the daily habits that create breakthroughs. 1 week, just 7 days, 7 sunrises, 7 sunsets. That was enough to show me that transformation isn't about time. It's about direction. When an airplane leaves the runway and changes its course by just a few degrees, it eventually lands in a completely different city. The same is true for your life. Small changes, repeated consistently, create extraordinary destinations. Today I want to share the 5 habits that changed my life in just 1 week. Not because they magically solved every problem, but because they changed me. And when you change, your decisions change. When your decisions change, your results change. That's the order of success. The first habit was taking ownership of my mornings. I stopped allowing my phone to tell me how my day was going to begin. I stopped giving social media the first conversation with my mind. Instead, I gave myself the first conversation. I woke up earlier. I spent time in gratitude. I spent time reading something that challenged my thinking. I wrote down my goals before the world had a chance to tell me what I should care about. Most people wake up and immediately become consumers. They consume notifications, news, opinions, entertainment, and drama before they've even created one valuable thought of their own. But winners create before they consume. Your morning is like the steering wheel of your day. If you grab it early, you control the direction. If you let someone else grab it first, don't be surprised when your day ends somewhere you never wanted to go. Within just a few days, I noticed something incredible. I wasn't reacting to life anymore. I was leading it. My focus became sharper. My emotions became calmer. My confidence grew because I had already won my first battle before most people even got out of bed. The second habit was protecting my mind. Your mind is the most valuable piece of real estate you'll ever own. The question is simple. Who lives there? Fear or faith? Excuses or possibilities? Complaints or solutions? I realized I had been feeding my mind junk while expecting it to produce greatness. That's like putting dirty fuel into a luxury car and wondering why it won't perform. So I became intentional. I listened to wisdom instead of gossip. I read books instead of endless comments online. I asked better questions. I stopped entertaining thoughts that made me smaller and started embracing thoughts that made me stronger. Your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts. If every day you tell yourself you're not good enough, your actions will eventually agree with your words. But if every day you remind yourself that you were created with purpose, your behavior begins to align with that belief. The battle for your future is happening inside your mind, long before it shows up in your bank account, your relationships, or your career. The third habit was taking action before I felt ready. This one changed everything. Most people worship motivation. They say they'll start when they feel inspired. They'll launch the business when confidence arrives. They'll improve their health when life gets easier. They'll chase their dream when fear disappears. But here's what I learned. Confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence follows action. The first step is always uncomfortable. Every successful person you admire once stood exactly where you are now. Unsure, nervous, imperfect. The difference is they moved anyway. Perfection is one of the greatest lies ever told. Perfection keeps talented people sitting on the sidelines while imperfect people build incredible lives. Every day during that week, I made myself do something that scared me. I made the phone call. I sent the email. I started the project. I had the difficult conversation. None of it was perfect, but every action expanded my belief in what was possible. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. Belief creates bigger action. Waiting creates nothing. The fourth habit was choosing discipline over feelings. Feelings are wonderful servants, but terrible leaders. Some mornings I didn't feel like waking up early. Some evenings I didn't feel like reading. Some days I didn't feel like working. But I realized something that successful people understand. Your feelings are temporary. Your decisions are powerful. If you only work when you feel motivated, your success will always be held hostage by your emotions. But when your values become stronger than your feelings, your future becomes unstoppable. Discipline is simply making promises to yourself and keeping them. Every promise you keep builds trust in yourself. Every promise you break weakens your confidence. Many people wonder why they don't believe in themselves anymore. It's because they've trained themselves not to. Every time they said, "I'll start tomorrow," and didn't, they taught their mind that their own word couldn't be trusted. I decided my word would mean something. If I planned to exercise, I exercised. If I planned to learn, I learned. If I planned to work, I worked. Not because I always felt like it, but because I was becoming the kind of person who finishes what they start. And then came the fifth habit. This was the habit that tied everything together. Every night before going to sleep, I spent just a few minutes reflecting. I asked myself simple questions. What did I do well today? What could I improve tomorrow? Did my actions match the person I say I want to become? Those few minutes changed everything. Most people repeat the same day over and over again because they never stop to learn from it. Experience is not the best teacher. Evaluated experience is. Reflection turns mistakes into wisdom. Reflection turns failure into feedback. Reflection turns ordinary days into extraordinary growth. Instead of judging myself, I coached myself. Instead of focusing on everything that went wrong, I looked for one lesson I could carry into tomorrow. Little by little, day after day, I became better. Not perfect, better. And that's the goal. The amazing thing is that none of these habits required more money. None required special talent. None required permission. They only required a decision. People often underestimate the power of 1 week because they overestimate the importance of one big event. But your life is rarely changed by one dramatic moment. It's usually changed by quiet decisions nobody else notices. The choice to wake up earlier. The choice to protect your mind. The choice to act before you're ready. The choice to stay disciplined. The choice to reflect instead of repeat. Those choices don't seem exciting in the moment, but neither does planting a seed. For days, it looks like nothing is happening. Underground, however, everything is happening. Roots are growing. Strength is developing. Life is preparing for the moment everyone else will finally notice. Don't quit because people can't see your progress. Keep building your roots. Keep investing in yourself. Keep showing up. Remember, success isn't an event. It's a lifestyle. You don't become successful because you had one amazing day. You become successful because you created habits that make amazing days inevitable. The person you want to become is waiting on the other side of the habits you've been avoiding. 1 week can give you hope. 1 month can build momentum. 1 year can completely transform your life. The question isn't whether these habits work. The real question is whether you'll work them. Because every sunrise gives you another opportunity to become someone you've never been before. 7 days from now, You'll either have 7 more excuses or 7 days of progress. The clock is moving either way. Choose progress. Choose discipline. Choose growth. Choose to become the person your future is depending on. Because the life you've been dreaming about isn't waiting for luck. It isn't waiting for someday. It isn't waiting for the perfect circumstances. It's waiting for your next decision. Make that decision today. Stay committed tomorrow. Repeat it every day after that. And one day you'll look back with gratitude, realizing that everything changed, not because you found a shortcut, but because you finally changed the habits that were shaping your destiny. The first habit that completely changed my life was learning to win the first hour of my day before the rest of the world had a chance to influence it. I used to wake up and immediately reach for my phone. Before I even got out of bed, I was checking messages, scrolling through social media, reading headlines, and reacting to other people's opinions. Without realizing it, I was allowing the world to decide my mood, my focus, and my priorities before I had even spoken one positive word to myself. Then one day I realized something powerful. If I surrendered the first hour of my day, I was usually spending the rest of the day trying to recover from it. That realization changed everything. Instead of beginning my mornings with distractions, I began them with intention. I got out of bed a little earlier, not because I loved waking up early, but because I loved the person I was becoming. I started each morning with gratitude, reminding myself of the blessings already in my life, instead of complaining about what I didn't have yet. Gratitude shifted my perspective. It reminded me that success doesn't begin with having more. It begins with appreciating what you already possess. A grateful mind sees opportunities that a complaining mind will always overlook. After that, I spent time feeding my mind with wisdom. I read a few pages from a book that challenged my thinking, or listened to something that inspired growth. I wasn't trying to fill my head with information just to sound smart. I was renewing my mind because I understood that the quality of my thinking would determine the quality of my decisions. Every successful life is built on successful decisions, and successful decisions begin with successful thoughts. Then I wrote down my goals, not because I had forgotten them overnight, but because writing them every morning reminded me of the direction I had chosen. A person without clear direction will eventually follow someone else's agenda. When your goals are in front of your eyes, your choices throughout the day become much more intentional. You stop asking, "What do I feel like doing?" and start asking, "What moves me closer to the life I'm building?" That simple shift changes everything. By the time most people were just beginning their mornings, I had already invested in my mindset, strengthened my focus, and prepared myself to lead the day instead of reacting to it. I wasn't perfect, but I was prepared. And I discovered that when you consistently win the first hour, you're far more likely to win the rest of the day. Success isn't usually decided in the middle of the afternoon. It's often decided in the quiet moments of the morning, when no one is watching and you choose to invest in the person you re-becoming instead of being distracted by the world around you. That's why I believe if you truly want to change your life, don't just change your schedule, change the way you begin your day. The first hour doesn't simply start your morning. It sets the standard for everything that follows. The second habit that changed my life was learning to guard my mind like it was my greatest investment. Most people are extremely careful about protecting their money. They think before making a purchase, they compare options, and they avoid wasting their hard-earned income. But very few people protect their minds with the same level of discipline. The truth is, your mind is worth far more than your bank account because your bank account is often a reflection of what has been happening in your mind for years. If your thinking is weak, your decisions will be weak. If your decisions are weak, your results will eventually reveal it. I realized that if I wanted a better future, I first had to become the gatekeeper of my own thoughts. For a long time, I was allowing negativity to enter my life without questioning it. I listened to people who constantly complained. I spent time consuming news that filled me with fear. I scrolled through endless social media posts comparing my life to someone else's highlight reel. Every day I was feeding my mind anxiety, doubt, distraction, and excuses, then wondering why I struggled to stay motivated. It finally hit me that my mind was producing exactly what I had been planting inside it. You cannot expect a garden full of flowers if you've been planting weeds every single day. So I made a decision to become intentional about what I allowed into my mind. Instead of filling every quiet moment with random entertainment, I started filling those moments with wisdom. I listened to messages that challenged me to grow. I read books that expanded my perspective. I surrounded myself with ideas that stretched my thinking instead of shrinking my confidence. Little by little, I noticed my conversations changing. I stopped talking about problems all the time and started talking about possibilities. I stopped focusing on obstacles and started looking for opportunities hidden inside them. I also learned that not every voice deserves a place in your head. Just because someone has an opinion doesn't mean it should influence your future. Some people speak from experience, while others speak from fear. Some people encourage growth, while others project their own limitations onto everyone around them. If you listen to enough people who have accepted average, you'll eventually begin to believe average is all you're capable of achieving. That's why you must become selective. Every voice you repeatedly listen to is helping shape the person you're becoming. The greatest investment you will ever make is not in the stock market, real estate, or a business. It's in the quality of your thinking. The better your thinking becomes, the better your choices become, and better choices create a better life. Guard your mind every single day because your future is being built by the thoughts you choose to entertain. Protect it, feed it with wisdom, and watch how everything around you begins to change. The third habit that transformed my life was learning to take massive action before I felt ready. This one challenged me more than anything else because, like most people, I believed I needed confidence before I could move forward. I kept telling myself I would start when I had more knowledge, more experience, more money, or more certainty. I thought there would come a day when fear would completely disappear and I would finally feel prepared. But that day never came. What I discovered instead was that the people who achieve extraordinary things are not fearless. They simply refuse to let fear make their decisions. They understand that waiting for perfect conditions is one of the fastest ways to stay exactly where you are. I realized that hesitation was costing me more than failure ever could. Every opportunity I delayed, every dream I postponed, and every excuse I accepted was quietly stealing time from my future. The longer I waited, the more my doubts grew. My imagination began creating problems that didn't even exist. I started overthinking every possibility until I convinced myself that doing nothing was somehow the safest choice. But doing nothing has its own price. Every day you delay taking action is another day your goals remain out of reach, while someone else with less talent but more courage moves ahead. So I made a commitment to stop asking, "Am I ready?" and start asking, "What's the next step?" I didn't try to conquer the entire mountain in one day. I simply took the next step that moved me forward. If I needed to make a phone call, I made it. If I needed to send an email, I sent it. If I needed to start a project, I stopped planning endlessly and began working. Some days my progress was small, but small progress is still progress. Every action taught me something I could never have learned by sitting on the sidelines. What surprised me the most was that confidence began showing up after I started moving. Every completed task made the next one easier. Every small victory reminded me that I was more capable than I had believed. Confidence wasn't something I found. It was something I built. Brick by brick, decision by decision, action by action. The more I acted, the less power fear had over me. Fear didn't disappear overnight, but it stopped controlling my future because I had chosen to move in spite of it. I also learned that mistakes are not enemies of success. They are teachers. Every successful person has made countless mistakes, but they refused to let those mistakes become permanent. They learned, adjusted, improved, and kept going. Failure only becomes final when you stop trying. As long as you're moving, you're growing. As long as you're learning, you're winning. Looking back, I can honestly say that taking action before I felt ready changed everything. Opportunities appeared that I never would have seen if I had stayed comfortable. Doors opened because I knocked on them. Relationships formed because I started conversations. Skills developed because I practiced instead of waiting to become perfect. Your future is not created by what you intend to do someday. It is created by what you choose to do today. The moment you stop waiting for confidence and start taking action, you begin becoming the person you've always wanted to be. Success doesn't reward those who wait for the perfect moment. It rewards those who create momentum through consistent action, even when the path ahead isn't completely clear. The fourth habit that changed my life was ending every single day with reflection instead of distraction. For years, I treated the end of the day as nothing more than the finish line. I would work until I was tired, watch something to relax, scroll through my phone until I could barely keep my eyes open, and then fall asleep. The next morning, I would wake up and repeat the exact same routine, hoping somehow my life would improve. But nothing really changed because I wasn't learning from my days. I was simply surviving them. Then I realized something that completely shifted my perspective. Experience by itself doesn't make you wiser. Reflection on your experience is what creates wisdom. If you never stop to examine your actions, you'll keep repeating the same mistakes while expecting different results. So I developed a simple habit that took only a few minutes every evening. Before going to bed, I would sit quietly and ask myself a few honest questions. What did I do well today? Where did I waste time? What lesson did today teach me? Did my actions move me closer to the life I want or further away from it? Those questions were not meant to make me feel guilty. They were designed to help me grow. The goal wasn't to criticize myself. It was to coach myself. I stopped treating every mistake like a personal failure and started treating it like valuable feedback. One of the biggest discoveries I made was that small daily improvements are almost invisible in the moment, but they become life-changing over time. If you improve just a little each day, those improvements begin to compound. One better decision leads to another. One lesson prevents the next mistake. One adjustment makes tomorrow more productive than today. Success is rarely the result of one giant breakthrough. More often, it's the result of hundreds of tiny corrections that no one else ever notices. Reflection also helped me celebrate progress instead of obsessing over perfection. I realized I had spent too much time focusing on what I hadn't accomplished while ignoring how far I had already come. Every day contained at least one victory worth acknowledging, no matter how small. Sometimes the victory was finishing an important task. Sometimes it was staying disciplined when I wanted to quit. Sometimes it was simply choosing a better attitude in a difficult situation. Those moments reminded me that growth was happening, even when it wasn't obvious. I also began planning the next day before going to sleep. Instead of waking up wondering what I should do first, I already had clarity. My priorities were written down, my focus was clear, and my mind could rest instead of trying to remember everything. That simple practice reduced stress, increased productivity, and gave every morning a sense of purpose. I wasn't reacting to whatever happened. I was living with intention. Looking back, I can honestly say that ending each day with reflection became one of the most valuable habits I ever developed. It taught me to turn every success into confidence, every mistake into wisdom, and every ordinary day into an opportunity for growth. The people who continue improving year after year are not necessarily more talented than everyone else. They're simply willing to pause, evaluate, adjust, and move forward with greater understanding. Every evening gives you the chance to become a little wiser than you were that morning. If you embrace that opportunity consistently, you'll eventually wake up living a life that once existed only in your imagination. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens when reflection becomes a daily habit. As we come to the end of this message, I want to leave you with one final thought. 1 week from today, your life will be different. Not because life suddenly became easier. Not because someone gave you an opportunity. Not because luck finally found your address. It will be different because of the habits you choose to repeat starting today. Never underestimate the power of one decision repeated consistently. Every great success story is built on ordinary actions performed with extraordinary consistency. The person who becomes financially free, physically strong, mentally disciplined, or spiritually grounded didn't arrive there overnight. They simply refused to let one day become another wasted opportunity. The truth is, your future is being created right now, not tomorrow, not next month, right now. Every morning you wake up, you're either investing in your dreams or financing your excuses. Every thought you entertain is shaping your mindset. Every action you take is casting a vote for the person you will become. So when this speech ends, don't let it become another motivational video you enjoyed but never applied. Information without action changes nothing. Inspiration without implementation fades within hours. The only message that has the power to transform your life is the one you actually live. I want to challenge you to commit to these 5 habits for the next 7 days. Just 7 days. Wake up with purpose. Guard your mind from negativity. Take action before you feel ready. Stay disciplined, even when your emotions tell you to quit. End every day by reflecting, learning, and preparing for tomorrow. It won't always be easy. There will be mornings when you want to sleep in. There will be moments when distractions seem more attractive than discipline. There will be days when progress feels invisible. Keep going anyway. Remember, the strongest trees grow quietly before anyone notices their height. The greatest victories are usually won long before the applause ever begins. Years from now, people may look at your success and call you lucky. They won't see the mornings you sacrificed, the habits you built, the fears you overcame, or the countless small decisions that shaped your destiny. But you'll know the truth. You'll know your success wasn't defaced as an accident. It was the result of choosing growth when comfort was easier. So make a promise to yourself today. Refuse to let another week pass living below your potential. Refuse to keep waiting for the perfect time, because the perfect time has never existed. The moment you decide to change your habits is the moment your future begins to change. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs this reminder today. And if you're serious about becoming the best version of yourself, subscribe to the channel and join this journey with us. Every week we'll continue learning, growing, and building a life of purpose, discipline, and lasting success. Your next 7 days could become the turning point you've been praying for. The choice is yours. Start today. Stay consistent. And let your habits build the future your dreams have been waiting for.